I already shot one video. It kind of gives an overview of Salerno 43, but I thought I would show just for a moment some of the strategy decisions that I am coping with. We're just about ready to start turn 7, and actually I've already started the turn in that I have figured out the weather, taken the German replacement for the turn, and got the one German reinforcement unit poised and ready to enter the map. The thing is, I've got to, as the Germans, keep the Allies from getting 2 victory points. And the 2 victory points that they're most likely to try to grab for would be this particular town hex here and this one here with the white border around it where my replacement was. And so as the Germans, I got some decisions to make. One of the things that's helped me out in this game is the Germans have, or the Allies rather, have gotten 7 victory points, but the Germans have successfully destroyed one of the beachhead units earlier in the game. They made a lunge for the beachheads and were able to catch that beachhead unit without any support and were able to take it out. They got forced back and took some heavy losses as a result, but here's the bonus. The Allies have 7 victory points. They've got 1 there, 2 for Salerno, it's 3, 4 for the airfield, 5, 6, and 7. But you lose 1 for every beachhead you lost. So they actually only have 6, which means they've got to take both of those towns. So how do we defend that? Well, one way to defend it is make sure that you've got an elite unit, at least one elite unit defending. Now here in this particular town, we actually have 2. We have a Luftwaffe unit and a 16 Panzer unit defending. They're both elite, which gives them an edge on determined defense. We just got to keep the core artillery and the organic artillery for that division near enough to support the determined defenses. And you're going to have to do that for 2 turns in a row. With a determined defense in a city, you could end up with a partial success, which means that there is nothing happens this turn, but if you get another partial on the following turn, then that would result in a delay and the units would be forced out of the hex. So with 2 combat phases, I can't rely necessarily on determined defense exclusively. There is a chance that I would fail on that. Not a great chance. I think 2 elite units is gives a pretty good edge for holding that. However, the Allies are starting to get their air support online, and they could really make a strong push there. The other city here, I'm going to have to send somebody in to reinforce it. And that's where my decision making is getting difficult. I hate to use a tank to do it, but I think I'm going to have to take these guys and use tactical movement to cross the river, not using the bridge, and go boink, boink like that. And I'm going to have to do something like that and then get my artillery safe from counterattacks. I need to establish a good Zoc bond there to keep them from getting at my artillery. There is something a little less defensive, a little aggressive I could try that would ice the game. And that is if I could kill that beachhead unit right there. How could I get him? Turns out I've got enough strength points. I got 8 strength points I could take out of this hex. And because the Allies foolishly abandoned this hex, had they kept a unit there, I could not slide down there Zoc to Zoc because that's a Zoc bond hex. If they'd kept a unit there, I could not have crossed the Zoc bond that forms on that hex side. So, oopsie, they made a mistake. I can take a stack of units with tank support, go up against this guy. His defensive strength of 2 becomes a 4 in the hills. So I would have 8 points of attack factors against his 4. That's a 2-to-1 edge. He's got elite units there, but that doesn't really help him in terms of combat shifts. But I would get a +1 for combat shift for having tanks and him having no tanks. So that would bring us up to 3-to-1 odds. I could then use the core artillery to give him 4-to-1 odds. I don't know if I would want to. I could slide him forward 1 hex and use the Nebelwerfers to give him up to a 5-to-1. Now, what does that get me on the tables here? Let's see if there's any defensive shifts that can help them out. For combat shifts, defender only for tanks, air support, and rain. They do have air support, so we can count on them using that. That would chew it up for their turn. And that might take pressure off of one of those towns. So I can almost assure you, if I get it to 5, he's going to use air support to bring it down to 4-1. Now, if he brings it down to 4-1, what I would need to succeed is a 5 or 6, because I'd need to have a 3-hex advance. If I got that 3-hex advance and I got a D1 result, the D1 result would kill the single step here. He would die. So he would just simply go away. Then, let's just take these guys out. Then I would just take those units here. It's a 6-factor and a 2-factor. Then I would have 3 hexes to do breakthrough combat with. I could slide down for 1, and then I could slide into his hex for 1, 2, and then I believe I could then make the next, use my last hex of advance to do a breakthrough combat on that unit, and he would have a strength only of 2. He wouldn't get to add anything to it, because this stack, even though it's adjacent to the beachhead, it is not adjacent to the attacker. If this stack was located here, half of the defense strengths of this stack would then apply also to his defense. So it's a way for me to basically outflank the beachhead, and man, 8-2, that's a slam dunk. So that's an aggressive move that I could use to ice the game, because if you kill that beachhead, then that's another negative 1 VP, and then it doesn't matter what the Allies do to those 2 towns, they can't possibly win. So that's something I'm contemplating doing, but I showed you this in the video just to give you a sense of the tactical tension, because if I do that, I'm spending all of that artillery firepower on that effort, and I've only got 1 supply point left to renew one of those artilleries. And so I have to kind of, keep that in mind. If I need to defend those guys, I might need to, apply some artillery support to a defense. I also don't want the 82nd Airborne to, do too much damage marching up that road. If I was playing the campaign game, I would not make this aggressive move. But if I'm playing the short scenario, that's a benefit that's worth going after. So again, that's just a sense for the strategy and tactics that you can find in Mark's new game, Salerno 43 by GMT Games.